Alright, welcome back everyone. Today I'm on location here at Twin Creek Metropark, and it's a new to me location. It's one I've been really looking forward to for quite a long time now to really visit, just because of the sprawling expanses of it. It's got lots of wooded ravines, lots of rolling kind of hills, and different kinds of hilltops, and that the trails just weave right through, in and out, up and down, just all over. And it's a place I've been just really excited to finally get to check out and explore some more, and take some photographs, of course. So it's about 1,000 acres, which is a pretty sizable amount, especially for a metro park like this. Honestly, I would say that elevates it to almost like a state park status. At least it kind of reminds me of some of the other kind of similar Ohio state parks in this part of Ohio. It's just a very gorgeous place. I actually got situated right behind the camera here is the Twin Creek that it gets its namesake from, and it's a massive body of water that's just ever flowing and ever present, and it pretty much weaves up and down, cuts right through the side of Twin Creek here. So most times a year, particularly in spring with bird migration, you'll see lots of different kind of woodland warblers. I know during the kind of the high view top of the portion of the Metropark here, that's where I parked and started, was at that trailhead for the day. Apparently you can see lots of different kind of northern harriers, different kinds of like grasshopper sparrows, probably henslow sparrows, different bobolinks, just lots of different typical grassland birds that are becoming very much more rare and harder to find nowadays, as their species and their range is rapidly decreasing here. But with the really rainy conditions for today, I've just been really focusing on the landscapes, doing just different kinds of woodland photography, just really kind of taking advantage of all the different water and the very wet and kind of muggy and miserable conditions that are around me today. And I've been finding it's been pretty successful so far. I've been doing lots of stuff with different kinds of kind of mossy trees, just all the way from the foreground to the background. They've been kind of just littered throughout, and I've been finding it to be really successful and quite enjoyable. But it's a very nice big metro park. I've been doing primarily the Orange Trail up until this point. Still am actually in the middle of it. That's about 6 miles in total. It's the longest one. It pretty much takes you around, loops you around the whole entire perimeter of the metro park here. And also on the Green Trail, actually, I'm actually coming up towards it, so I might check it out while I'm at it, of course. There's several Hopewell Indian mounds that are still present on the site here at this metro park. And then other than that, there's also, if you're into kind of the backcountry, kind of backpacking style of hiking, which I definitely am, of course, there's also the Twin Valley Trail that cuts right through this one, and it also borders the neighboring Germantown Metro Park, and pretty much connects all those and makes one giant 22-mile in total if you do all the trails, including the kind of secondary optional trails. So it's a very nice just set of hiking area around here in this Metro Park, and it's been a very nice day out. It's a little bit freezing cold. Cold and rainy, as I always say, is my least favorite kind of weather conditions to be out and photographing or hiking, all of that stuff. But it's been quite bearable, actually. Right, as you can tell right now, since I'm out in the open, the rain's stopped, which has been very fortunate. And I've been using, this has been pretty much a lifesaver, but I've been using this little umbrella to not only keep everything dry, myself included, and the camera gear, of course. And I found that's been just a really helpful gift for these weather conditions here. But since it's lightened up, still got nice overcast lighting, which means I can still be out photographing, probably in the woodland interior mainly. But yeah, it's going to be a nice rest of the day out, and I look forward to exploring the rest of the Metro Park here and see what kind of photos or things we will find out here. So let's keep on going. Alright, so I'm super excited. I just got what was more than likely the shot of the day for me. Definitely made this whole trip worth it already. That's already been pretty amazing as far as I'm concerned, but to finally get a proper photograph here is just really exhilarating. So I found this kind of like a little pipeway kind of crossing, where water flows. It's basically a separate stream from the Twin Creek that kind of branched off of it. And I just literally walked past it because I was up on a hill. I was, at least, and I didn't quite see this waterfall, essentially. A fairly decent sized one, at least, but about my height, about maybe a 6 or 7 foot drop. Not really any cascades or anything of that sort, but it definitely had some kind of, looked like old, almost like limestone and shale, kind of earthy geological formations on it. So some really intricate detail within the rock itself, which is pretty neat. So it looked pretty natural as far as I'm concerned, with the way it was flowing. But it's just such a good moment with photographing it. And here, let me stop here for a second. Yeah, so it was very, very good waterfall. I used my 16 to 35 millimeter wide angle lens, f4, and I think my settings, I bounced around a little bit with some of them, but overall I kept them at about f11, f13 range for the aperture, and then varying obviously my shutter speed depending on what kind of the other settings were and what filters I used. And my ISO was around the 100-200 range because I didn't really need a high ISO. This nice overcast lighting made it absolutely perfect for shooting a waterfall. Perfect. This is what I consider perfect waterfall weather. Just after a nice decent rain that we had this morning at the beginning of my day, and then now that stopped and it's still cloudy, it just worked out perfectly. So for filters, I started out with a circular polarizer filter that also doubles as a UV filter. Not that that really matters. It's mainly for aesthetic purposes for this. But for the photo itself, yeah, I use a circular polarizer. And then I decided I wanted to show more of the kind of the blur and the more of the detail. Put some more emphasis on the water flowing, and just make it much more abstractual and creative. Make it more of like a fine art, long exposure photo. And also just to pump up the contrast more overall between the more static parts on the edges of the frame against the water in contrast. So I put on a neutral density filter, an 8 stop rather, neutral density filter, and that just, with those two filters combined, not that I really recommend stacking filters because that can reduce image quality. I found that these two work together very, very well, and it made the photos look very tack sharp. And from there, it was just sky's the limit, and that's the best part about it, especially with landscapes, or in this case waterfalls in particular, is that you can pretty much just do any kind of creative thing you can with composition and play around with it and toy with it. And the waterfall is probably not going to go anywhere in your visit, so that's the best part. I spent well over an hour, I think, really just experimenting, trying different, working the scene, trying horizontal, vertical compositions, and just anything I can. And trying it, at 16 mil, trying at 35 millimeters, and just experiment with all the different kind of range of different just angles, viewpoints, raising, lowering my tripod legs here, and yeah, it was just such a good moment. It really made this trip worth it. And any other photos and whatnot that I get from here on out with the remaining of time I have, that's just icing on the cake. That's just just a little bonus. But this made it, this little waterfall, even if it had a name, because it looked like on the park map over here, it actually has it as a park feature, or it has it like labeled as one, but it doesn't have a name as far as I can tell. But I might as well just call it the Twin Creek Waterfall as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, very nice one. It's obviously a new one to me since this is my first visit here. But yeah, very, very impressed with that. and I feel like the photos in both black and white and color turn out pretty well. So yeah, it's just moments like this that just really remind me every time I'm out with the camera just why I do this, and pretty much why I live to do this. And it just, whenever I get the kind of strike out with a nice photo, it just really reminds me of just the importance of doing this, just for my own personal satisfaction, creative fulfillment, and then to share the image and just document the natural world around us. I mean, that's honestly my goal with all of this, really. And I feel like, I guess more or less I achieved it here. But yeah, it's been a nice day out. It's just can't complain, just really can't. Unfortunately though, I spent a lot of time here, and I'm going to conclude my visit, or at least the video, at this point here. So thank you so much for watching, guys. This has been Twin Creek Metropark, and until next time, make sure to get out here. Thank you.